everyone, to the last session in this room before the lunch break. We're introducing Katie Parratt with the talk title, 7 Learnings from Scaling a Data Science Product in Power BI. She has 10 years of experience building data products in a variety of blue chip and scale-up companies. She has an MSc, a master's degree in data science from Edinburgh University. She enjoys working with businesses to understand how they can improve their working lives with data. She's currently working in the gaming industry, delivering AI and advanced analytics solutions to operators and studios. So let's welcome Katie.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Katie, and as mentioned, I'm a senior product manager for Future Anthem, and today I'd like to speak to you about 7 learnings that I have gained from scaling a data science product in Power BI. So first of all, who are Future Anthem? So we are a B2B data and AI company, and we work with some of the world's biggest operators and studios in the gambling industry. We were founded in February 2019, just before COVID, and since then we've been on a rapid trajectory of growth. So we received our Series A funding in August 2022, and we now have 40 employees based all around the world. In terms of my role in Future Anthem, I'm a senior product manager for a product called Optimise, and Optimise delivers a series of dashboards that use AI and advanced analytics to populate these dashboards. And what we do is we help our clients understand more about their player behaviour using Power BI. So, before I go into the learnings, this presentation is not specific to Power BI, but I thought I'd just highlight why we chose to go with Power BI as our chosen data visualization solution. And this is actually one of our dashboards here that's in my product. So first of all, in the early days, we needed a tool that was intuitive to pick up because we did not have Power BI developers, we only had data scientists. So we needed a tool that would allow people that had the right technical prowess to pick up and run with it. We also knew that Power BI had a growing talent pool, so we wanted to know that when it came to hiring, we wanted to know that we could find the right people to fill those roles, and we have found that as we've grown. We also knew that it would be cost effective, so we'd already decided to go with Microsoft Azure for our storage, so staying in the Microsoft tech stack just made sense. And finally, they do monthly release cycles, so I've been in multiple situations where we've been blocked on something, and then Microsoft have done a new feature release, and then we've been unblocked. So it's really helpful for a scaling business to have those constant improvements. So, into the learnings. Number 1, unlock machine learning capabilities. Now, I would think there's probably many people in this room that have already used data visualization tools, and you might be of the mindset after today to think, okay, let's put more machine learning and advanced analytics in our applications. Something to be aware of that we learned in the early days that your standard data engineering pipeline cannot always accommodate machine learning models. So something that we had to do was to change our pipelines to be machine learning pipelines so that they could work with the recommendations and the outputs of the machine learning models that we were creating. What I'm showing you here is not the most beautiful design in the world, but it's actually the first dashboard that we sold, and it was built by a data scientist. So it just shows you that it can be picked up and worked with by anybody. I wanted to show you this because I wanted to highlight an example of where we've used machine learning models in the product. So here you can see we have player volume by clusters. So what we do here, this is one of the first machine learning models that we built. And what we do is we look at all players and we cluster them based on their value. So if we see a player that spends lots of money, they have really long session lengths, then they're probably going to be a high value player. If they are someone that doesn't spend a lot of money, we don't see them often, we're probably going to count them as a low-value player. So I think this is quite a simple example to understand how we can use that complex model and show it in a simple way. So here you can just see we're looking at total player count. So we can see how many players do you have that are high value versus how many do you have that are low value. For us, now that we have these machine learning pipelines in place, it gives a lot of flexibility for future development. So something that we're looking at the moment is we have a lot of other machine learning models that are not yet in Power BI. So what we're looking at is how we can bring our recommendation systems and bring them into Power BI to make them useful by our clients. Learning number 2, make your versioning scalable. So building and maintaining a product for 2 clients is very different to building and maintaining a product for 20 clients. So we learned this firsthand in the early days. We had our first client and we built them a version of Power BI. We then had another client, so we copied that version and we gave it to them. Then we got our third client, so we copied it again, and we gave it to this third client. Then client 1 says to us, can you build this bespoke feature? We can do that, keep you happy, why not? Client 3 then says, can you build as a different feature? Okay, yeah, we can do that. Before we know it, we have 3 different versions of the product. So client 4 comes along, which version do we give them? We get to client 20, how on earth do we maintain all of these versions? So what we did about 2 years ago is we did a project called Machine Learning as a Service. And what we did here is created a master demo version where basically we make all of our changes, and from that we release it to all of our clients from there, which makes a much faster deployment process. Now, the Power BI is good because what it allows you to do is have small discrepancies between your versions that mean you don't have to configure them during the release process. But the downside to us is that we can no longer offer unique changes to each of our clients. So in order to be future-proof, we've had to be much stricter about how we implement features into the product. So we cannot do one thing for one person, because if we do, it means that when we release in future, we have to make that configuration every time. So priority number 1 is ensuring that our speed of deployment is minimized as much as possible. Learning number 3, prepare for performance. Power BI does not have unlimited storage and capacity. We have learnt this firsthand. So we deal with transactional level data, which means that every time a player makes a bet, we have a row with that information in. So last year, we did a rough count, and we had over 5 billion spins, 5 billion rows of data. Power BI cannot handle that. Most systems can't. What, in hindsight, I wish we had done from the early days is very easily had a time restriction on how much data we put in the product. It's a much easier conversation to have from day 1 than to have it 5 years down the line and telling a client, we're going to cut down your data set by 3 years. What this also means is being conscious of this from the early days is that we avoid restricting future feature development. So what we have found is that sometimes we find a feature that we think will be really valuable, but we know that it's going to kill the performance too much and we haven't got that much room. Or we find that we're going to have to do a piece of work to improve the performance before we can build that feature. So anything you can do to avoid being in that situation, because it just delays the feature development, is definitely worth considering. Another thing that's kind of related is thinking about your data processing. So until recently, we were processing all of the data every single day. So we refreshed once a day. What we have recently moved to is incremental refreshes. So rather than processing everything every single day and doing all the calculations again, which is expensive, we now only do the most recent day's data. And what we do is once a month, we refresh everything. So if there's any changes in the historic data, we still have those captured in the product. Learning number 4, use the agile principles that work for you. So I believe that the agile principles were based on software engineering. Software engineering products tend to be quite static, whereas for us, well, unless you're doing a release, but for us, we are refreshing it every day, and that data goes through a really complex process to get into the product. And this can mean that we have a lot more bugs than you probably see in your typical software engineering product. When we've had people that have come from software engineering backgrounds into our world, they can feel uncomfortable with the amount of bugs that we see and the amount of times we have to bring things into the sprint. But that's just normal with the amount of volume, with the amount of data that we are processing. Another thing that Agile encourages is welcoming changing requirements during the development phase. We cannot do that as a B2B company. We make timelines and commitments to our clients, and we have to keep them happy. So once we started developing, we shut the door and we deliver on what we've said we will deliver. And then finally, the release cycle duration. So I've worked in companies before where they release every day. Again, we cannot do that because of the release process that we spoke about with MLAS. So what we do is we try to release every 2.5 months, because we don't want to spend all of our time releasing just so that we have frequent releases, rather than spending our time and actually building the valuable features. Learning number 5, build something that lasts. So we have been through a change recently where, in the early days particularly, we would be working with clients and we'd say, OK, what do you want us to build? What can we build for you that will give you the most value? And that's great for clients. They're basically getting bespoke development, and it makes them really happy. However, what we have learned is that what they want right now is often different to what your future customers want in the marketplace. So what we have had to do is come up with a kind of new way of working, where instead of saying, what do you want? We say, we are developing this and we will give you this. Some clients have been on board, others aren't too happy with it. What we have done is we focused on being really roadmap-led, so really having a plan of what it is we're going to deliver, being really good at communicating that and really getting buy-in in the early days. However, what we have done is allocated a small amount to these bespoke changes so that if people are really, really tied to a feature, then we can accommodate it. But as I mentioned before, we have to give that to all of our clients, not just to them on their own. Learning number 6, put the user first. So you can build the most beautiful and elaborate machine learning model in the world, but if the user does not know how to use it or get the insights from it, it's pointless. So what we have done is we've really taken some learnings from software engineering and thought about the user experience. And Power BI, fortunately, with the recent updates, has become really good at making a good UI, I believe. So what we have done is we've looked at the UI and the UX consistency. Naming is so important, making things clearly labeled. Tooltips, so the inbuilt Power BI feature that's so quick to add just makes all the difference to a user. We also have a knowledge base, so on every single dashboard that we provide, we have a link to an external web page where we detail everything about how the analytics are calculated. All the calculations, all the measurements, everything you need is there in case you are unsure. We also have a glossary available with all of our terms around, and we also have support like any other B2B company. So we really give that user a fully kind of supported view with the idea that with all these things, we want people to pick the product up and just run with it. So we're always happy to give training and walk people through it and give them a taster, but the idea is that we don't need to do that. There should be enough in the product to help you run with it. Learning number 7, final learning, make it happen. So there's so much potential for bringing AI and advanced analytics into your data visualization tools. However, it is a complex process and it does take buy-in. I thought it would be useful to just run through at a very high level how we get a feature from ideation to live. So what we do is we start off, and this has been through many iterations as we have grown. So we start off with a new feature that comes to life. It might be from the business or a client or myself. We prioritize it and then we scope it. So we work out, okay, what exactly is going to be involved in this feature? We then take it to the full engineering team and we brief them on exactly what it is that we're going to be working on, and we work out the solution on that together. We then take that through to the data engineering team. So if any new data needs to be ingested, or if the base layer of data needs to be amended, they would do that first. That then goes on to the data science team. So if they're building new models, or if they're doing any new advanced analytics, they would do it there, and then they provide the tables for the Power BI team. The Power BI team then pick up those tables, they may put some measurements on top, and they create the dashboards that then go to the clients. And then the final stage is that we do sign off. So I would sign it off, we'd take it to the business, and then we'd roll it out to all of our clients. So that is the end-to-end feature release journey from beginning to rollout. So to summarize, number 1, unlock machine learning capabilities. Number 2, make your versioning scalable. Number 3, prepare for performance. Number 4, use the agile principles that work for you. Number 5, build something that lasts. Number 6, put the user first. And number 7, make it happen. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Thank you for the very I have a question related to ROI. So at the beginning, when you got your customer, how you justify the estimated ROI you're going to have for a particular project, and then depend on the project, of course, but then how you normally measure the value of the project at the end.
How we estimate the what at the end, sorry?
The value.
The value at the end, good question. So at the beginning, because we didn't have the MLAS pipeline, we could release immediately because we'd only be building it for that one client. So it was very different then. Obviously, it had the advantage of speed, but it had the downside of scalability. We couldn't scale with it. In terms of measuring the value, so a lot of work goes into the beginning of being sure the value will be there before we build the feature, because we don't want to spend time and money building a feature that we know that they're not going to use. So we have really good engagement with our clients. We meet with them once a month, and we really try and understand how their business works. And because we do that with all of our clients, we have a really good understanding of what it is that they're looking for. So we kind of do that value piece before we've even started the development. But afterwards, because we're constantly checking in with our customers, we make sure that they are using it, and we can also check their usage stats to see if they are actually using it. So that's a good way as well. Yeah. Yes, we always estimate before we start it, yeah.
Thanks. Thinking about Power BI, how has Microsoft's move to Fabric and that environment impacted you?
Not at all, to be honest. We haven't seen any transition in the 4 years that we've built it. So from my perspective, I've not seen any change, but maybe the Power BI developers feel differently, but I'm not aware of any differences.
Hi. I just wanted to understand how your team collaborates on Power BI, because that has been kind of a problem for some institutes, especially the collaboration space. And have you tried the newly launched Git version control, which is embedded in Power BI as well?
I'm really sorry, I missed the first part of that question.
How do your teams collaborate on Power BI when you're working on a single project, because there are multiple updates, etc.?
Yes, that is actually a really big problem at the moment, because so we have 4 Power BI developers. So what they do is the product that we have is split into 3 files. We want to split it down further into 5. We build everything in the testing room, and then we now have to rebuild it in the master demo version. So it's time consuming, yeah, but because we have 4 developers, there's no way around it at the moment, but it is something that we're investigating because it's a known issue.
Have you tried the Git version?
We haven't yet, no, but I'll have a look into it. Thanks.
Hello. You have talked about the master demo version.
Yeah.
Is it like a catalog of features that the customer can choose from, or what does it mean?
It's the whole product. However, we have one client that doesn't have transactional level data, which makes half the pages redundant. So we only give them half the pages. So turning off pages is very easy. But other than that, we don't take any of the kind of single configurations.
Hi, so I just wonder how you log in your model with different clients, because with different clients they have different data sources, kind of different how they keep data sources, and then how you log after you log it in, how you keep it continuous of the data, because maybe every day they will still have new data fit in the model, and you have to show them the real-time data.
Sure. So we do receive some real-time data. We don't show real-time data in the product, mostly because of cost, to be honest. We're looking at maybe doing a couple of pages in real time, but most of it is done once a day batch. And sorry, your first question was?
How you log in into different, your model is standardized, and then how you log in with different clients, they have different data source, how they structure their data, how they model it differently.
So all of our clients' data has a similarity in that it's all transactional level data, but we go through an onboarding process with the data engineering team. So we have to have them have a data in a way that we can make it work. We also keep all of our clients' data completely siloed, because it's a huge kind of security risk if there's any chance of overlap. And then what we do is we run the model specifically only on their data set. So there's no chance of any kind of overlap. What we also do is, because like with the player clusters I was talking about, we rerun it every day. So we don't change the model every day. We run it through the model every day. So any new players, for example, are assigned into a new player cluster. But then we retrain the model once a month. So we do a full kind of data set review. We run the model again just to check that with the new players that are coming in, it could have amended what is meant by high value player. So if they've launched in a new market where we see a lot of high value players, it then might change the existing players because some of them won't be high value, for example.
Any more questions?
One last before you go away. You've mentioned a couple of times in terms of your different customers and how you do version control. So how does the operating cost model work? So if the new customers are not really interested in that new features that you're launching, do you have that kind of problem where you're doing a major and minor release, and in cases of major release they just say, well, we're not really interested, why should we pay you more?
Yeah, we absolutely do. So we also have like lotteries as well, which is slightly different to kind of some of the operating studios that we have. Really, it's how we handle it in terms of a customer perspective. We don't shout about it. If we know they're not going to use it, we don't make out that it's a big thing, but we still release it into the product just for kind of scalability purposes.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Katie, so much. We're finishing off. Can we give her a clap? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we're off to the lunch break. And remember to have your popcorn and sign in for the £500 in cash.